Cuckoo, Cuckoo, you had better check your clock, because it is time to listen to America's most Bavarian podcast, The Pod People. Brrr, I'm the Birdman, Matisse Van Rossum.
I'm Ben Sheets, and I'm Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Hi, I'm JD Vance. And I've decided to drop out of the presidential race and instead open a treatment center in the Bavarian Alps for breeding purposes.
Wow, you have my vote.
To drop out?
To drop out.
Hi, I'm not JD Vance. I'm Cleveland Mosier.
Well,
Please don't confuse us. I don't like to think we're easy to confuse.
You are sitting on a couch right now.
I am.
Whoa. Whoa.
Sitting on. And that's it,
and
folks.
that better be all you do. That couch wasn't cheap.
Nope. It's a white couch. You won't notice. It's fine.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, we just got back from the theater with another new movie in this year, 2024. We just saw Cuckoo.
A year of great fucking horror movies so far.
It's been a very good year for horror.
A year of pleasant surprises.
Many pleasant surprises. Yeah, and this was another pretty good one. We saw Cuckoo, written and directed by
Tillman Singer.
Tillman Singer, German director Tillman Singer. This is his
Singer, like a cuckoo.
This is his second feature. He did another horror movie back in like 2018 called Luz, I think, L-U-Z. Don't know anything about it. But this movie stars Hunter Schafer and Dan Stevens. It's about a young girl who moves to the Bavarian Alps with her family, who are helping to build a new resort up there, and encounters some strange, gross, nasty stuff related to the creepy resort owner, played by Dan Stevens, doing a very funny German accent.
It's great.
This is the year for Dan Stevens.
Truly.
Funny
It
accents.
is. It is.
Let it keep going.
He's doing, this is the third.
May it be the first year of many. I hope it keeps.
I
he keeps
hope
doing it.
for the next one he does patois.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
do
no.
it in Chet Hanks style.
Yeah.
Boom. Yeah, I hope so, too. That'd be great.
White
Boy,
guy
Dan
dreads.
Stevens.
Yeah, 2024 is the year of Dan Stevens. He's having a good one. This is the third movie that we've talked about starring Dan Stevens this year. Godzilla x Kong, then Abigail, and now Cuckoo. And in each of those three movies, he's doing a different silly accent.
He does a New
And
Zealand
that's why he's
in Kong, and then in Abigail he does was it a Boston?
Brooklyn. Yeah,
that's right, a Brooklyn accent. Yeah, that's right. And then here we get a wonderful
I
German.
know he's doing a funny Bavarian accent.
Yeah, it's so good. So yeah, we've seen it. We know why the cuckoo sings. Too dark. Maybe that joke's too dark. I rescind that one if possible. Yeah,
Because it's trying to come. The cuckoo wants to come.
Anyway, so the I liked it.
Yeah.
I say go see it, especially if you're a Dan Stevens fan.
I will say this is probably the funniest of the three Dan Stevens accents. And
Yes.
it's probably my favorite of the three
Best use of him.
performances of Dan Stevens.
And he's
I
great
did
in
really
Abigail.
love him in Abigail, though.
He's very fun in Abigail,
But I agree.
Yeah.
And he gets a little more over the top in Abigail, but there's like a refined sort of zaniness in this movie. He keeps it just under the surface at all times in this movie.
Yeah, and he has to, like, actually speak some German a few times, and, I mean, I'm by no means a native German speaker, but I found it convincing.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe somebody who is a native German speaker saw, listen to that fucking asshole try to speak German, but, no, I thought he did good. I thought, across the board, the performances in this were very good. This is my first time seeing Hunter Schafer in, like, a leading role, I guess. You said she's one of those Euphoria folks, right?
Yeah,
like fucking
and I think she was in the Hunger Games the recent one.
Okay, I haven't seen any of those movies.
There was a recent one? I didn't even know.
Yeah, there was
Yeah.
one like earlier this year, I think, or late last year. It looked terrible. Who still gives a shit about the Hunger Games?
Not me.
I don't know, not me.
Not me.
Yeah, I've never seen any of Euphoria. I don't know any of that shit, so I don't really know Hunter Schafer. She had like a really small part in Kinds of Kindness, which we saw earlier this year.
Oh.
But
Wait, where was she in?
She was in the third
She's she's one of the first people that Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons are like trying to audition to be like the Messiah or whatever in the third story.
That's right, I forgot.
She's there for like 2 minutes, she takes her tits out, and then she's gone. But this, she is our leading lady, our final girl, our scream queen. And I thought she was good. I finally see something of what Hideo Kojima sees. Watching her twirl that butterfly knife and he just fucking gets rock hard.
Yeah, well, I think that's the biggest thing about her performance here is, like, I feel like the writing in this movie isn't the greatest, but in terms of physical performance, she gives a great performance. She plays around with a butterfly knife. She gets thrown through the ringer.
I like her passive stuff too. Like when she's just like playing bass and singing, like she has a great presence to her. It's well captured too. Like she seems like just like that cool, you know, like
disaffected teenager,
Yeah.
angsty teen. Yeah, I think she plays a lot of the early part of the movie like pretty understated, but I think in the third act she has a chance to show some more emotional range.
Yeah,
and I thought she did a good job. I agree with you. I don't think the dialogue in this movie is fantastic.
I don't think the dialogue's fantastic, and I think the script is a little messy. It feels like they throw a lot at the wall. But with that said, like, it's fun enough that it keeps the narrative drive going along.
I feel like
enough of a clip.
Conceptually, I don't want to spoil it just yet, but I feel like conceptually, like it's pretty straightforward. To me, what felt messy, especially good towards the end, was a bit of like the scene pacing and blocking, where according to who is where and what is happening, it felt like folks would have already moved into another place, or like it felt a little weird. Like there's some anime time almost going on to me in a few places. Where
It's interesting.
Some
I feel like
unkillable characters.
Well, yeah, that.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I feel like we all have different takes on this because I actually don't find this movie that messy. If anything, I think it's almost a little bit too restrained.
I like that.
Like I get it. I can get down with it for like the first 2 acts, like it's like a sort of slow burn, but especially by the end, I was definitely like left wanting some more.
I
think
I
there's
agree with that. Yeah, for sure. Like I was expecting more of a zany payoff.
Yeah, me too. And
Though
I think
I will say, the resolve is kind of fun. I did.
Yeah,
It,
there's some fun. There's a lot of fun
I
stuff
think
in that third
they
act
hadn't-
for sure.
Yeah, and if they hadn't resolved like the very end of it the way that they did, some of those little gripes that I have, I think we all have, like, would have left more of a bad taste in my mouth, but it didn't, because I think it did, you know, at the end, like, stick the landing at least.
I thought
So,
this,
you know, any complaints I have going forward, like, I wouldn't misconstrue them as, like, great, you know, like, great issues with the film. Overall, I thought it was quite fun.
I thought this movie had a very good trailer. We've been seeing it for a long time, but I do think there's something specifically in the trailer that ultimately does the film a disservice, which is, you know, they do those kind of fucking, like, you know, critic review splash cards over the trailer or whatever, and one of them is, it says, an instant body horror classic.
It's not!
And there is virtually zero body horror in this movie. And I think that kind of is what left me feeling kind of disappointed. And I don't think that's necessarily the movie's fault, but if they're going to advertise it that way, I think that's kind of why by the time we got into the third act, I'm like, okay, when are we going to get really crazy with this? And it never really does.
I saw another blurb in the promo cycle for this calling it gory fun.
What?
And it's not that gory either.
There's like next to no gore in this. Like,
yeah. I will say that there is some implied freaky shit.
sure.
Plenty of it.
That
but
is quite horrifying, and horrifying in terms
conceptually horrifying.
conceptually horrifying, and even in terms of the body. Like, I'm willing to concede that, and I can even concede giving this movie, like, some body horror flowers. Like saying, like, it is a body horror movie. Is it an instant body horror classic? Do you want to put body horror in the trailer? No. Absolutely not. It's not front and forward.
Us,
like,
tell us.
no, I think in this case, like, the implication is good. Like, I mean,
implication is
To me, it's the
fine, but
expectation.
implication is fine in certain cases. But I think particularly, like, you're not wrong that conceptually the horror having to do with the human body is present. But when you're going to put the label of body horror onto a movie or a game or whatever,
It conjures
there
Cronenberg.
is a certain, it conjures Cronenberg, and there's a certain expectation there that you are going to see horror of the body, that the human body is going to be warped and twisted and torn asunder and changed. Like, that is what body horror as a genre definer means. And this movie is not really that. And again, I don't think that's necessarily the movie's fault, but it is kind of a false expectation that the trailer sets up. And we talk a lot about trailers on
least,
this
yeah,
movie, and I think it's, I think there's an art to making a trailer, and I think that there is something interesting to be said for how something is marketed versus, like, what it actually turns out to be. But anyway, should we actually talk about the movie?
The content.
The content
Sure.
of
the
the
contents
movie.
within.
Yeah.
Yes, I would love to. First, before actually we get into sorry,
Let's talk about the movie, but first let's talk about something else. Go ahead.
Oh, I just thought like it might not hurt before we dig into plot and like hit all of the beats. To just talk about like the aesthetic of the film.
Sure. It's beautifully shot.
Yes, it's beautifully shot, and I like that it is a love letter to analog, and there's a timeless quality to the film.
It reminds me of It Follows in that way.
Yes.
I think the cinematography in It Follows is a little bit more precise and considered. Considered is maybe the wrong word.
Meticulous?
Yeah, meticulous, but in terms of, like, production design and that kind of thing, like, yeah, this movie it evokes the 80s. I mean, Hunter Schafer has a smartphone, like, we see some modern technology, we know it's present day, but there's never a, like, looking up lore on the computer scene or anything like that. And yeah, there is a lot of sort of, like, hearkening back to, like, retro kind of.
Well, I think what it is it's the 35 millimeter, that they shot on. It seems like it's kind of high speed where it's very vibrant, more so than
colorful.
your average movie would be.
And the set design really enhances that so well. There's some just really pretty, like,
I mean, it's
pastels.
hard to make the Alps look bad.
Yeah.
But I mean, the
But the
interiors,
interiors
too.
and stuff too.
yeah.
Like, I love Dan Stevens' like old resort that he runs, like all of the wood paneling and stuff. Like, that's
Exactly.
very like 70s and 80s.
Each of the resort cabins seem to be themed, and their interiors are a little different. And like, there's
there's like the honeymoon one that's like the lover's nest or whatever, and it's painted this like
it's also called the
ugly.
pink room, I think, at times.
It's painted
too,
like
right?
this
Or the
ugly
pink-
kind of the pink bungalow.
Pink bungalow, yeah. That's
Because it's this ugly, like, old washed out pink color.
Yeah, it's so I love how they treat it too, like and it fits so nicely into the themes of the film, which I think there's very little fat on that too, which I will give the script praise for.
Yeah,
is like the bungalow itself, like it's specifically, again, like you said, it's a honeymoon bungalow, and it's for people to fuck.
Yeah.
And it's like this is the room you rent when you're like trying to fuck. And it's cool because, like, even when she's at she's working at the counter and like people come in, like the girl comes in, she's like, "Hi, are you here with someone? Because we have amenities for that." And she's we can tell that we don't see it, but like she's sort of instructed to say it that way.
Yeah, they have
And-
discounts for couples and stuff.
Yeah, and other amenities is what
Yeah.
specifically what she says, and that's kind of fucking weird, you know, when you think about it. And like, it's like
The amenities are monster cum. Spoilers.
yeah, and but often classic like traditional European hotels are. I mean, less German, like, but like, I don't know. I'm getting a lot of this just from watching Faulty Towers, but like, no couples fucking is like a big policy in like, you know, like a lot of like European hotels and shit. Like that's a whole.
I don't think
I think you're pulling down from one very
I don't know.
specific
Like,
example. I
don't know,
don't think that's
just love-
actually true.
I just love the idea of like John Cleese getting really angry at the fuck bungalow. That's
Yeah.
just very funny to me. But no,
I think you're projecting something.
I
there.
probably am. But the
Europeans
I
love
that
to fuck.
It makes of course. That's what, yeah. The Brits are a little weird about it.
Yeah, except
but,
for
like,
the
they have some hang-ups, but the Germans
the
definitely not.
island
Yeah.
of the sheep fucker island.
Well, that's specifically Wales. But anyway, no. What I'm getting at is it makes like human mating rituals weird. You know.
Yeah.
And that's the conceit, and it's cool. Like I like that. I like all those little aspects. You know, our protagonist is uncomfortable because and this can nicely segue into story. Like she is really like set off kilter from the beginning of the film because her mother is out of the picture, and her father has married someone else and has had a kid with them, and so she almost feels like a third wheel in her own family, or a fourth wheel, and
well, yeah, she's moving to Germany with them because her mother has recently died. They treat that kind of like a reveal later in the movie, but it seemed pretty obvious from the beginning.
it is, but like I think that's okay. It works fine.
But yeah, so it's like it's your typical kind of like
because we're seeing it from
loner
her perspective, where she's still trying to like conjure her mother being alive. You know,
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
fair.
I
like,
mean-
because she's leaving voicemails on her dead mother's answering machine. And we don't know at the time that she's dead, but it's pretty obvious. But, you know, she's doing, like, the therapeutic thing where, like, she's just trying to, like, reconnect with her mother. She's leaving her letters. And, you know, like, so to her, it's her kind of trying to imagine her mom still being there and still alive. So
yeah, no,
when
I
it's
think all
pulled from
that's
her is
I think all that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm what I mean is just like later in the movie,
the treatment of the review.
then they sort of like show
Yeah.
flashbacks to her like leaving the messages like on the mom's answering machine, that was stuff that we've seen before, and be like, oh my god, when she was doing that, she was leaving them on an empty answering machine because her mom's actually dead. And it's like, well, yeah, we know.
Yeah, and that's what I mean by being a little narratively messy, is like, it's kind of clear from the get-go, you know, but they jump back. But also, like, there's a lot of different themes at play. You know, we talked about breeding and reproductive rights and mating, and also, like, new formed families, but also processing grief and losing, you know, a loved one.
Yeah.
And all of this is kind of thrown into a blender. And
And
Well,
maternal
specifically
bonds,
losing a mother.
Yeah, losing
Yeah.
a mother, maternal bonds, that kind of stuff, and surrogate families, all of these themes. Yeah.
And I will say they do pay most of those off pretty well.
Totally.
But there's a lot going on there. And,
Yeah.
you know, while it is restrained, like you mentioned, like, at the same time, there's a lot of different themes that are juggled at the same time.
Yeah.
Under the surface.
No, I totally agree with you there. Like, it's an interesting thing where, like, it's kind of slow, but at the same time, like, narratively dense. Like, there's not necessarily a lot of, like, action happening all the time, but there's a lot of information being relayed. And I don't just mean, like, in the sense of, like, exposition or anything like that, but character development, all of that stuff. Like, it is very dense in that way.
I do like how it is structured in loops.
Another theme.
Another theme. She arrives. She begins to, you know, she tries to lash out and leave in some capacity, and is punished for it. And then she's sort of returned, always pulled back to the hospital. That happens several times.
Yeah.
In the film, and I like that. I like that. Like that structure is treated the same way that the songbird creature like pulls her in, and captivates people is by this loop. And so we sort of get these sort of concentric rings, and that's sort of how the story is edited and built out, which is another reason why, in the scene where we're realizing the stuff with the mom, it just felt like another concentric loop, and to me
That's fair.
That worked in the flow.
It kind of
scene.
Looping back on itself,
right? And where I didn't even see it is like, oh, they're treating it like a big reveal. It's just that it's all catching up with her, and it's coming back in a big emotional loop again.
That's a fair interpretation. I like that. I can appreciate that.
I do like the payoff there, even though it's almost treated like a reveal. We do get some additive stuff with the final voicemail.
Oh yeah,
yeah. That there's more there at the end
from the sister.
With the sister, yeah. That's really nice because like through a lot of this, like Hunter Schafer's like she doesn't refer to the younger girl as her sister. It's my dad's daughter. You know, like she doesn't feel a sense of like familial connection or bond to her. And like the sister's kind of strange. Like she's not deaf, but she's mute. She can't speak. So, like, she'll occasionally communicate by way of, like, an app on her phone or something like that.
I like, too, that's exposited by the sister as her being just kind of an edgy teen and being like, yeah, my sister can't speak. It's real annoying.
Yeah, it's fucking weird,
yeah.
You know?
like, she just sees it, like, as another, like... alienation.
Yeah.
You know? And I love that that's paired with... And even just a little bit, I kind of wish that there was more, but I really like how the younger sister does show that, like, younger sibling, like, admiration for her older sibling. Like, she thinks she's cool. And
and there's a desire to connect there. Like,
Yeah.
she wants to see, like, what Gretchen's whole thing is about, but, you know, Gretchen keeps pushing her away forcefully at times, too. And so just to quickly tie up what Ben's talking about before we get too far away from it. Yeah, when that reveal later when like the box of her mom's stuff shows up and the answering machine is there. Again, nice classic old-fashioned answering machine with a cassette tape. Yeah. So she's able to she drops it and it starts playing and we hear all of her voicemails that we've heard prior to this, but at the end there's one more voicemail from the sister using her text-to-speech app or whatever, being like, hey, I'm Gretchen's sister, you know, I hear her calling you all the time, you should call her back, she'd really like to hear from you, and then maybe you can come visit us or something. And it's just like, that is just like such a nice, sweet little thing that like is like a really meaningful impact for Gretchen too, that like I think is really necessary for pretty much the whole third act and like buying why Gretchen comes around to wanting to like be there and for her sister and like protect her sister despite the fact that, you know, she's not her real sister.
And that scene is such an emotional centerpiece for the movie in a lot of ways. I think it's probably Hunter Schafer's best scene in terms of acting.
Yeah.
You know, even though it's mostly her crying through a lot of it. Like, I think it's very emotionally raw, and, like, she does a great job with it.
It reads very genuine.
Yeah, I liked all of that.
Well, let's jump back to the very beginning of the movie. The first shot we get is really interesting in terms of themes for this movie, because we see, like, two people arguing, and we see their shadows on the walls, and it's distorting, so it almost looks like a non-human sort of figure, because the shadow is distorting over the corner.
Yeah, it's two parents arguing, and like the shadow is cast up the side of the staircase along the wall, and it's specifically at a corner. So whenever like it's the shadow of the father that's being cast, and his face gets like the front of him gets elongated, and back again whenever like he pivots and the light hits differently in the corner, and it looks fucking great. It looks really good, and that's paired with a young girl kind of oddly shivering and moving strangely upstairs as she listens to this argument and reacts to it.
And hears the distant shrieking that is calling to her.
A big motif of the movie is that sound. What did you guys think of that sound? I thought it was fine. Good.
I thought it was good. I got a little tired of it by the end.
An awful lot.
It's used an awful lot.
A shrill, high-pitched
there's little variation to it, which I think is the problem. But also, at the same time, like, that's kind of what bird calls are like, and also a cuckoo clock, right?
Yep. And again, the whole movie is about loops and repetition.
Yes,
so
and
I'll allow it, but I agree.
Yeah, it gets a little grating at a certain point.
Yeah, again, more notes on that.
I think it's a like from like a Foley perspective, like, it's a cool sound.
Well, yeah, it's neat because
like,
it sounds alien at first, and then it always tapers into sounding very human.
I did see something really interesting about some of the sound design on this.
Oh, please.
Some people on Twitter online were trying to make a big stink about the sound design in this movie because they saw a credit for AI sound design. But I guess what it was is they were using Holly Herndon's AI model that was trained on her own voice.
Oh,
so
interesting.
It's AI, but it's like limited, sample set.
That's fine.
AI.
Like,
Yeah.
cool. All right,
Which I think is interesting.
I get to
That
say on the
kinda-
podcast,
yeah.
like, cool, a use of AI I'm okay with because it was literally, like, because it wasn't thievery. It's not, if it was informed by the person, like, because Holly Herndon, gave permission, like, cool, it's
And
it's
also,
a weird
like,
way
Holly-
to distort her voice.
And also, like, Holly Herndon, I don't feel too bad about it either, because, like, Holly Herndon's, like, a legit artist and, like, a music theoretician.
Yeah. This is one
so-
of the rare instances where it's okay. And,
Yeah, no.
And also, it speaks to why it's generally not
That's
okay,
cool,
right?
though.
Because,
Yeah,
like, normally
yeah.
AI is informed by models that didn't give permission
And
to do that. So
I think
that's
it's
cool. That
interesting
works.
because the sound here does have almost sort of a human quality, but it's kind of distorted and
Yeah.
made foreign.
I think that there's very, very, very limited practical uses of AI
Yes.
in art, and I think that is it can help make things feel uncanny. Because it's a technology that is still in a very uncanny state.
Yeah.
And so I think when used to enhance something like that, like in this case, it can be cool. I also think of, like, not something we talked about on the podcast, but aggro drift. Was like Harmony Korine is like one of the few people that I'll give the AI pass because
it's
like
deep dream textures.
yeah, and he's like trying to be weird with it, like he's trying to make something otherworldly and artificial and uncanny
And cheap.
and cheap, yeah, and cheap
looking,
and ugly.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
like it doesn't look good.
Yeah, exactly.
In the aggro drift, it looks bad. And it works. It works for that.
Edge lord shit. He's so cool, man.
Yeah. Though I will say, even for Harmony Korine, hopefully, like, that AI was at least in some way instructed or informed by stuff that wasn't stolen. But yes, the movie
Yeah.
Cuckoo that we're covering. We should let's circle back around.
Yeah, well, we talked about the first scene. I think it's a great opener where, this girl has a sort of seizure, and then runs out of the house. And
Off into the woods.
Yeah, we get a weird call from Dan Stevens. We don't see anyone on the call. It's just kind of voiceover.
Speaking German with subtitles, saying some weird stuff that doesn't really make sense now, but will make sense later.
But
unless
even,
you know anything about birds.
Even in the moment, it's fucking creepy.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, yes, at least, like, like, a shame that she's already made it.
No, you've already let the adolescent escape or something like that. That's going to make it more difficult to control the mother or something like that.
Yeah, it's creepy.
Something weird and uncanny that immediately, like, sets off like, oh yeah, there's something. It's
that whole idea of
there's something fucked up going on.
Yeah, it's that Slaughterhouse-5 like weirdness of like looking at humans as zoo animals. It's the nature documentary of people. It's fucking creepy.
But they're not people in this, Cleve.
Well, and it sets the stage for the rest of the movie because this U.S. family goes to the Bavarian Alps, and they are in like a very controlled environment.
Yeah, Dan Stevens even mentions at one point, or I think we hear it when in that scene where he's like arguing with one of his employees in the background or something like that. It's a nice little bit of background dialogue, but we hear that his resort and everything is all this is all a nature preserve. And like throughout the movie, he's talking a lot about like preservation and like certain species needing like human assistance to not go extinct and stuff like that, and like, oh, I'm a preservationist, you know.
To jump ahead of it, to stay on this point, like that scene with that argument, that dialogue is extremely funny. Because it's
this is a pretty funny movie.
Yeah,
overall.
it's Dan Stevens is talking with like the front of the hotel, and she's complaining because she has her own life and she doesn't want to drive this other person home. And Dan Stevens is like, hey, look, you always have an art, like you always make everything into a confrontation. Like, look, can't we just work this out or whatever? Blah blah blah. They continue arguing, and we're looking at something else. Our protagonist is suddenly observing another person, another part of the scene, but in the background we just hear him say, like, after like more bickering, like, it's like, you are disturbing the natural sanctity of this environment or whatever, and it's like, what the fuck does that mean, Dan? Like, what do you mean, like, you're such a,
with
like,
all of
way
your
to put it.
arguing.
Yeah, and like I thought that was really funny, and it shows like just how, like,
it's very German, very uptight. You are disturbing.
Yeah,
disturbing the peace and the sanctity.
And it's great. It's really awful. And it really pulls at the comedy that just runs as an undercurrent through this whole film. And I love it. I love like the kind of awkward European kind of zany humor. Like it's always presented very flatly, and it works because, again, like
a lot of it's very dry German
with that
humor.
Bavarian kind of stuff. Like the whole idea is like, this is very serious, we are not laughing, as someone pulls up in like the dinkiest yellow car I've ever seen. And it's like, no, and it's to me it's my favorite kind of comedy, which is like where I can't remember where I first heard this, but it was like it's that style of comedy where it's like, there's nothing funny going on here, like, don't laugh. Like, kind of shit is always great. Like, like, you have to take this very seriously as, you know, person, again, drives up in a dinky, goofy yellow car.
That's what's so, to take a slight tangent, that's one of the things that I love about Werner Herzog so much, who is himself a Bavarian, and why he's so funny as a meme, because, like, he is aware of his meme status, and he's good-natured about it, but he inherently doesn't understand it because...
And he's correct, too.
Well, because crucially, he says I've read 2 of his books now, and in both of them, he makes a point of saying that he has no sense of irony. He does not understand irony and sarcasm. There's like something in his brain that is just like not wired for it.
Pure. He's not poisoned by it. It keeps him authentic, because irony poisoning undermines your sense of self.
He can never be fully in on the joke and what people think is so funny about him, and that's why he will always continue to be funny. It's like him, like, being friends with John Waters for like 30 years before he realized that he was gay. You know, it's like it's that kind of thing.
Because he's so sincere and he's so true to himself, and that's why he's a legend. That's what makes him a giant. And no, it's so true. Like again, there's nothing funnier than Herzog in his very serious voice saying, "Here comes Honey Boo Boo."
Yeah,
like I'll never not laugh. It gets me every time, man. Yeah. So there's so much of that, and it's all brought to the front by Dan Stevens' amazing performance.
Yeah, he's so perfectly cast.
So because he speaks like a cartoon villain, because, you know, it's the German scientist archetype, right?
Yeah.
So all he has to do is that, in an environment where it is supposed to be taken seriously and treated with care, and that alone is funny. Like, and it works because, like, well, you know, like, obviously, like, we can't treat, you know, like, the German scientist who sounds like an evil character. We can't treat him archetypically. Like, he's a person. He's well-rounded. He you know, like, surely he's not that, and he's still he's both. He sort of exists as both of these things, and that roundedness to, like, a goofy archetype is very funny to me. And only Dan Stevens, I think, can pull it off, like, to that level where it's both, like, so cartoonish and also so sincere. I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but I hopefully...
No, I think...
Am I bringing the...
I think it's a good point about Dan Stevens, particularly. I think what makes him so good as a character actor is that he is able to simultaneously be sinister and funny. I think all of his best roles are that. Like, Abigail is full of that. Yep. The Guest is full of that.
I mean, I think that's one of the greatest strengths of Dan Stevens is in a lot of his best roles, there's like a simmering anger under the surface.
Yeah.
And that's so perfect for a Bavarian mad scientist. Mm-hmm. It's perfect in The Guest. It's perfect in Abigail as well. He just does that so well where, like, there's frustration underneath his kind of pleasant demeanor.
And I love it. I love that, like, in the true German way, that, like, even at the end of this, when he's, like, shooting at people with a machine gun, it's still that, like, he still hasn't, like, really let his rage out.
No, he's still reserved.
There's still that, like, he's obviously trying to, like, still keep himself composed. Like, that intensity is always there beneath the surface, but even in, like, the heights of this movie, it never escapes.
And it's funnier for it.
And it is
rarely.
funnier.
Like, normally I would crave an arc, and I would crave, like, a final scene where
you want him to blow up at some point, but the fact that he never does is funnier.
Works
I
here.
think.
Yeah. And it's a rare instance of it. Generally I would want to see Dan Stevens go all out and go wild, but here, like, him keeping to that is funnier.
Yeah.
That he loses it in action. Like, he is running around, like, shooting and...
I mean, no, he totally goes nuts at the end, but, like, he never goes, like...
It's very German type
Yeah,
of
nuts. He's never full, like, ranting and raving, you know?
And the other thing that's boiling under the surface isn't just his rage, but also it is very specifically, like, it's sexual frustration with him, right? Like, and we see how it discomforts the protagonist as well. I really like the sequence where it's the other lady pulls up in the silly yellow car, and Dan Stevens is just there as always. Like, he's always he just appears. In the scene.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that he's just kind of like, it always throws off our protagonist and us as well. We're like, oh, what are you doing here?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's in control of all of this, right? Yeah. Like, this is his resort.
He's
his
practically
nature,
omniscient.
His nature preserve, like, his experiment. Like, it's all, he's controlling everything. So, yeah, he's always right there.
He's funny every time. And just, oh, you again. And it's an old bit, but it's a good bit. And but yeah, in that scene, like, he's introducing these our protagonist to this other, like, scientist who works at the
doctor.
The doctor, yeah.
Yeah.
And he enters the scene from the right, and he puts his hand on her right shoulder, and then he moves to her left, and he keeps his hand on her back, and he pulls it across, and then keeps it on her left shoulder instead. And I hated that. It's so uncomfortable. It's like, just, he has to remain, like, contact with her, and, like, it could be paternal, but it's also, like, it's a bit like touch and contact is, like, very seductive, and it's so creepy, man.
It is, but also, like, most European cultures are way touchier than Americans are. Like, that, and that's what I like about this too, is that, like, you're right, like, especially the way, like, Hunter Schafer reacts to it, and, like, again, her character is American too, right? And she's, like, a teenage girl, and he's, like, a weird, creepy older guy. It's like, she reacts to it like, yeah, ooh, this is weird, why are you touching me? And I'm really grateful that the movie never, like, it never pushes it really much farther than that.
It's
like,
worse.
he's always like, a little too close.
He's still a fucked up sexual creep, but in a very, very different way.
Yeah, but I mean, he's like, he never tries to rape her or anything like
thank
that.
God for
like,
it, yeah.
and it never goes that
like,
far.
They set us up to think it's that, and instead it's something worse somehow. Like, and I like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. No, it's
worse might be the wrong word.
What he's doing is wretched, but I don't think he's not the type of sex pervert that you're maybe afraid that he is early in the movie.
No, yeah, he's a very different kind of pervert. He's a science pervert.
He's a science pervert. Yeah,
worse.
that's the important thing. Like, even though like he's very concerned with like mating and breeding of these strange creatures or whatever, you know,
he's not horny for it, and that's creepier.
He's not horny for it.
Yeah,
yes,
and that's creepier. He's clinical about sex, and
well, yeah, he's a scientist. He's a scientist.
Yeah,
like that's what I think is good about it is that I feel like in this type of movie it would be way too easy to make him horny for this whole thing, and the fact that they don't like he's
reminds me a little bit of Jeffrey
by
Combs
it.
in Reanimator.
Oh,
a
yeah.
little more subdued.
yeah,
more subdued, but good comparison. He's excited
He's horny for the science.
He's excited by it. He's titillated by it, but he's not aroused. He's not like sexually aroused.
Well, he's not
by
participating, but he's still. Well, he is participating, but as a third party.
Yeah,
like
he's facilitating.
Yeah.
But also, it's not like he's sitting in the corner and jorking it or anything.
He doesn't have to. It's worse. It's worse that he's like, that he's like taking notes and shit. It's fucked up.
I mean, I think regular conservationists and scientists are probably sitting there taking notes while they're watching pandas fuck too.
And the horror is applying it to man, and that's the point of the movie. Like,
but they're not people. They look like people.
They humanize them. Come on. Like,
I guess they do.
They're not they're not people. I'm putting big quotes.
It's
up.
bigoted of me, isn't it? I guess that is sort of the lesson.
They are. The monster is man. Like, come on, that's the whole fucking point of the movie.
Yeah, so we choose to be human. We choose to be human, or we choose to be monsters, and that it's a little bit of nature and also a lot of bit of nurture.
Yeah. That's cool.
Themes.
But and once again, big asterisk on that. We'll come back around. What else do we need to hit before we hit the spoiler? I mean, the girl. Okay, I guess plot-wise, we haven't gotten anywhere. They arrive.
Yeah. So we can do some broad strokes.
Please.
They arrive. Hunter Schaefer's parents are there to help him design and build a new, fancier resort. And Dan Stevens offers Hunter Schaefer a job working at
the resort.
At the desk, but she starts to notice a bunch of real strange things. He's very particular about like not keeping the place open after 10, not keeping anybody working. Like, he's very particular, like, don't ride your bike home at dark. Like,
and letting her work the late shift.
Not letting her work the late shift because she doesn't have a car.
Well, there's a second shift that only Beatrice, the other worker,
who closes up at 10. Yeah. So it's still after dark. Yeah. But so that's the
even
quote
like there's
late
an all night
shift.
Yeah, there's a graveyard shift.
No. But I mean the second shift.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, there is a late shift. There is not a graveyard shift.
Yeah.
But and then I think this is a great segue into I think one of my favorite scenes, especially in terms of execution in the movie. They show it in the trailer, but like one night she does end up like she takes Beatrice's.
Beatrice has a date.
Yeah, she takes her shift to work late, and so she locks up and she's biking home in the dark like Dan Stevens told her not to, and she's got her big over-the-ear headphones on and listening to music, and as she's biking she's biking past like the bungalows or whatever, and we see like a figure in the distance like come out from behind one of the bungalows just like sprinting. Mm-hmm. She doesn't notice it.
Well, and I love how it's shot too, because it's done like it's sequenced in one shot. We have her from the back biking, I think, and then the camera pans. Camera pans, and then we see like the passing houses and trees, and then the person starts running, and then the camera pans back to the front of her.
And we don't see what happened to that figure.
Trucks, I guess, actually, and like. Yeah, so the creature's like the person, whatever it is running.
Yeah, at this point, it looks like a person,
yeah,
but
like a coat or something.
In a trench coat, sprinting full tilt.
Yeah,
in the dark.
And Hunter Schaefer's wearing headphones, and so the camera just pulls back over to her as she's still just biking forward and listening to music, and so we know that to the left there's still something, and I love that that's done in one shot, like that is maintained over the course of like a shot, because. most movies would just cut back to her, but instead, because we're actually like moving the camera back to her, she's still somewhere to the left and in the darkness. And like
I think it does. I think it does cut, but the figure runs out of the frame. The camera tracks with it for a few seconds, and then the figure runs out of frame, and the camera doesn't track, and then we cut back to Hunter.
No, I swear, like it's on her running, and then it trucks back to Hunter Schafer biking forward. I remember like being really impressed by it. And then
either
it
way, it doesn't.
her.
Yeah, either way, it
But
doesn't
like
really
it just
matter.
to me,
But,
like it and the reason I liked that so much is like it does like we're still kind of feel in the same shot where the creature is in the darkness. It's somewhere to the left, and it's going to come out at her. And then we cut to behind Hunter Schafer, and we see her shadow on the
yeah,
street.
I really like this. Like as she goes under the street lamps, you like we're the camera's pointing down at the street, so we like see her
Over her
shadow,
shoulder, yeah.
her shadow
perspective. We see her looking down.
Yeah, her POV as the shadow, passes by in each of the street lights. So it's light, dark, and in one light, you see a little extra something, and then it goes dark again, and it comes back up. And behind her shadow, there's another shadow running along behind her. And she turns around, and there's just this woman in a trench coat just sprinting, reaching for her, and, like, screaming.
I love the face of this creature, too. Because it's a woman in, like, a classic, like, rain trench coat.
And silly sunglasses.
With big old lady sunglasses. And also, like, a classic head wrap as well, like very 1950s, floral patterned, like head wrap that ladies will wear to keep their done up hair from getting wet. And so she has this like old school like 50s look about her, but also like there's reflective eyes behind the glasses for some reason, and it's fucked up.
Yeah.
And the big glasses, everything like does such a great job of distorting her face. And also too, like the head wrap it's like a 50s one that's like kind of like an old plastic. So it kind of points her head, and the whole thing makes her look more avian because of it. Like the big black sunglasses with the tiny like beady eyes, like and it kind of like shortens her nose and makes her whole face just feel very like a bird without having to make it look like a bird.
I gotta say, I like the monster design in this. I wish they would have pushed it a little
Yes,
further.
me too. I wish there was there was more. I wish there was a cooler, again, body horror like monster reveal later. I think it's perfect for this early stuff because like everything that Cleveland's just described, like it looks very much like something not human disguising itself as a human, which is again the uncanny and what is scary. It's like that is something dressed up like a person.
Something
but
is
it's
beneath that.
But it's not a person.
What is it? What is beneath it? And the answer, I think we all wish, was more body horror.
Yeah, and the answer is ultimately not really anything. Just a lady who
visually,
has got kind of weird eyes and kind of veiny and she scream a lot.
Yeah, well, and the whole conceit of monster trying to be human just obviously evokes the Thing,
right?
And like the Thing does such a great job of
I was
throwing the veil aside.
I was never expecting anything as crazy as the Thing, but yeah, I was hoping that we'd get
even an inch of seeing the veil being lifted and seeing like more of the creature for what it is, rather than what it's trying to imitate, would have been.
One thing I do like, and it's shown early on too, is the with the girl at the very beginning, is the ears that pull back. I do like that.
Yeah, they like twitch.
Well, yeah, like they don't just like twitch, like they can go like an inch backwards, and I thought that was like it was like real fucking creepy. And again, it almost
it's
implies
like if you ever had one of those friends who can like
physiology.
Wiggle their ears, but like.
But
way more, yeah.
And that was cool.
And it's like you hear it, and it's like responding to like the shrieking in the distance.
And we get a repeated motif of like a close up of like a neck
Yeah,
the
quivering
throat.
With
the
the
quivering
throat
throat.
quivering,
When
yeah.
which I thought was cool.
That was cool. It reminded me of like some of the sequencing in Beyond the Black Rainbow.
I
as
still haven't
well.
seen that.
Okay, well, I'm going to watch that with you at some
I can
point.
see that a little bit.
Like, which, you know, like there are some similar elements between the two movies as well. Like they're both kind of clinical physiology films.
Yeah, I mean, the quivering throat is so obviously just a bird reference.
Of course, because they warble.
Yeah.
And their throats go, and again, I like that. I like, again, it's the human doing, it's the human body doing something that human bodies don't do.
Right.
And that's good. That's uncanny. So, you know, points for that. But no, I think the issue is, like, we have so many great leads. We have all these wonderful signs from the beginning. Like you were saying, like, it feels like there isn't a person underneath that.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it does only just reveal it's still basically a person.
Yeah, kind of fucked up, but
with, again, there's a big asterisk. I think the mechanics of it are very cool.
Yeah.
But I would have wanted more. Can we just let's get to it?
Sure. Let's get to it.
So she's running. She gets hurt. She gets to it. She gets to help. Just to get the short version, watch the movie.
Yeah.
You know, if you want all the beats, fuck it. And which you should. It's good.
We can double back to details.
That scene where she gets to the hospital is great. I gotta say,
really well sequenced.
She gets like, I love how like they unlock the door and she immediately just
runs into the other door. She does that at the very end too, like when they're walking out again. Yeah, like I was thinking the same thing, like a bird running into the window.
Themes.
And you know, Hunter Schafer's she's very tall and kind of gangly and awkward,
like a bird.
Yeah, you know,
insert the always sunny Sweet D jokes.
Yeah.
But...
Oh, you look like a bird. She looks like a bird. No offense to Hunter Schafer.
None.
Very good in this movie. I think a lot of that is creative decisions and how in acting and how she carries herself. Okay, well, so there's another like quote unquote big reveal later. I also thought this was pretty obvious.
Which one?
The sister, that the little sister is is
Plain
one of the monsters.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty apparent from like the very beginning.
Yeah, they set it up very clearly in that cold open.
Yeah,
she doesn't speak
with the voiceover.
Well, the little sister doesn't speak. The monster has like a weird voice thing. Like
they met, and the when they meet Dan Stevens, he's like, "Oh yeah, it was 8 years ago that you two stumbled into my little love nest, and the idea for this new resort wasn't the only thing that was conceived that night." Looks at the little girl in the back seat.
I love
it's
how
like
they cut to Hunter
Schafer is like, "What the fuck?"
Like, what?
Which is like, of course, what we're all thinking too.
Like, what?
And you know, that's man, like I love that, like because it's perfect comedy. It's really good writing because we have Hunter Schafer acting as a foil for the audience. So like, it's not only Dan Stevens says some really weird shit at the beginning of the movie that would put us all off kilter. Like Hunter Schafer is there to tell the audience that we should also feel that way, and it's not the movie being weird. You know, like it's good to flag that for the audience.
It's like, yeah, that's weird. That's weird stuff. It's like they do a more sort of like obvious one later where she's like confronting Dan Stevens, like, "Why did you bring us here?" And he's like, "You and your family belong here." And she's just like looks at her parents and she like gestures at Dan Stevens like very sort of cartoonishly. She's like, "That's a weird fucking way to put it."
Yeah, it's weird.
Like, yeah,
it's a weird thing to say.
Am I the only one who thinks this dude is weird and creepy as shit?
No, he's just German. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly. He's just German. Don't worry about it.
And that's the root of the comedy. Like that's the root. Like it's like, no, he's just German. Don't worry about it. It's like, no, he is weird though. What's happening? And like that's fun. You're like, oh, don't worry about it. Like, so look away. Nothing to see here, folks. Like it's fun.
And the to get back to the twist, like the movie does like we do have Dan Stevens like literally explain this in exposition at a certain point, but like if you know about birds and cuckoos in particular, like the thing about cuckoos that they're birds that lay their eggs in the nests of other birds. Mm-hmm. So they trick the other birds into raising their young. So going into this movie, if you know that, it's called Cuckoo with that cold open, it's like, okay, yeah, there's some weird creature that is leaving its young with humans to raise them.
I will say, I don't want to skip past the scene right before that reveal happens,
Please.
where there's like a detective
Oh, yeah.
who's a little bit underbaked.
Oh, we should set up the
in
template.
my opinion. But they go to the love nest.
Yeah.
And they see Beatrice and her cop boyfriend.
Yeah, I do like the role of the detectives. Like, to me, he really reinforces like all the fun kind of Twin Peaksy vibes that this movie has. Where once again, like, there's a whole like there's nothing to see here, and then suddenly this detective character approaches our protagonist, and he's like, "Hey,
There's something to see.
there's something to see here. Don't tell anyone." And it's like I gotta, like I'm trying to get to the heart of this, and we don't know what that is, and that's fun. It's very noir, it's very classic, and like I love that interplay like between them.
I really like that character. I just wish there was more to it and more of him. Because I feel like it was just slightly underbaked, where it was his character was pretty much solely used for a narrative device.
He's less of a character and more of a plot device.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think it's okay. Like, well, that's why I don't think we would necessarily need
But
more
I
of
like
him
the
as
character.
a fulcrum.
I
Yeah.
like the character, and I wish he had more character and not just narrative device.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that.
My only that would pull from like Hunter
But
Schafer. and the
I
rest.
do love that scene where they're at the love nest spying,
They're doing a stakeout. Yeah.
and the creature comes, and they try to get the jump on it. Essentially,
Yeah.
Does
Yeah,
not go
it's,
well.
we haven't really mentioned, but like when people hear the creatures cry or whatever, it essentially like hypnotizes them. I like the way they handle this movie, because it like puts them into these little like time loops, kind of, where they are just like reliving the same like few moments over and over again, which I think is cool. I like the way that they shoot that stuff, and like the weird sort of like throbbing effect that they put on like when people are hypnotized.
I got a little tired of it by the end, but more of that.
Yeah, and it
I love it at the beginning.
It complements like the little throat throbbing thing.
We first see it with one of my favorite scenes in the movie is like Hunter Schafer is playing bass and hanging out listening to music, and the sister comes in and she hears it in the distance, and she starts seizing, and then Hunter Schafer turns and continues to turn, and continues to like try and deal with the situation, and she can't. She's caught in that loop, and I really like that, like as the headphones come off, and then the sister like scratches her, and then suddenly the scene ends. And I think it's cool because like it's the scene like serves so many purposes. It sets up the creature stuff, and also it sets up the little sister being in admiration of her older sister, and like 'cause she comes into the room and she's like, whoa, my sister's being really cool, all while we're getting these cool shots of like Hunter Schafer like singing and trying to like figure out this guitar part and how she can kind of contribute to the mix of like her friend's mute track. And I think that's cool, like and it works quite well, like for that whole dynamic with the younger sister. So anyway, that's how the creature operates.
So the creature attacks Beatrix and her boyfriend at in the love nest.
In the love nest.
And of course, the nest, like birds or whatever. Yeah. And it puts like the cop boyfriend like into the loop and attacks Beatrix and tries to rub a handful of cum on her.
Yeah, it's fucking creepy. I was quite off-put by it in all the right ways.
They do that a couple of times.
Yeah, it's like he's off in the other room just experiencing this loop, and meanwhile she's like dormant on the bed, and this creature is just like curled up on the floor in front of her, and it pulls its hand out from almost under itself.
like its crotch.
Yeah. And it's just dripping. And
just like a handful of goo. I mean, it just looks like cum.
Yeah.
Like it just like a huge handful of cum.
Yeah, and it's reaching out for her, and that so fucked, man.
Yeah, and then is interrupted
So
by,
fucking
by
gross,
the,
dude.
the detective coming in.
And again, the implication there is really like for me, like that's all I needed. Like that's so fucking horrifying.
I mean,
and gross.
it's
I don't
not
need to see
even
like the insertion of the hand or anything.
yeah, it's
like
not
that.
even an implication. Like we straight up hear through exposition later that it's like, oh yeah, it puts an egg inside of a woman, and then the man comes along later and fertilizes its egg, and then they give birth to
That's the big spoiler,
a cuckoo baby. Yeah,
Is that it's so I guess we're here. It is a non-human creature. They call it Homo cuckoolidia.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And it's
cuckoo person.
yeah, Homo cuckoo buku, and it is not human, but it uses humans almost like a third, like as a surrogate.
And
so like it'll impregnate a person, and it'll have its child, just like again how a cuckoo leaves its egg in the nest.
But unlike the cuckoo birds, the Homo cuckoo, the gay cuckoo, comes back for its offspring later. And the presence, the closer the birth mother is to the baby, the faster that it like enhances its maturation or whatever.
That bit of lore was gross too. I found all of it to be really fucking nasty, and I like that.
It is. I mean, it is gross.
It's super
gross and weird. Yeah,
and it's gross and weird, and
Dan Stevens is like he's a conservationist. He's like these things have stopped, and I think he like later it might be sort of like a throwaway line, but he says something about like hundreds of years of research. So I like that he's like continuing a tradition, a legacy.
Yeah.
And he mentions that like these creatures have stopped breeding before, like pandas do. It's like they'll go extinct
if we don't
if we don't get them to fuck, like, or I guess in this case, if we don't get them to rub a handful of monster jizz on a lady.
Don't say jizzums. Don't say it like that, Ben. Jizzums?
Monster
what are you? Are you from the 1920s? You're jizzums? What the fuck? You can't just casually drop jizzums, Ben. Like, yeah, you can't fucking say jizzums like you're fucking. Oh yes, the creature does the jizzums. Like,
who are you, Stephen King?
Yeah. Hold on, I need another drink. Let me ruffle this bag. Fucking, oh my god, yeah, the Jizzum Bird, which is what we're calling it from here on.
The Jizzum
handful
Bird.
of jizzums.
The Jizzum Bird.
Yeah, pocket full of cum. Ben is spitty.
No.
That's how I should introduce myself. Fuck. Oh man, we're having fun. All right,
Pocket
so
full of cum.
Pocket full of cum. Like a Freddie Gibbs line.
Have we ever? Has there been one single episode of this podcast where we haven't talked about cum?
Well, you know what?
Not on my watch.
If there has been an episode, it's a bad episode. All right, like
It's true. It's a bad.
We're the
episode.
cum boys. All right, we're out here. All right, so
No, unfortunately, I wish.
Come down is taken. Yeah. You know, I lift my glass.
The Adam Friedland Show.
That's right.
Yeah, they're over. We can take it now.
Yeah,
that's true. Cumtown is dead. We could use that.
We're Cumtown now. That's
Holy
how that
shit.
works, right? Like the cuckoo, we're putting our egg in the Cumtown nest.
They wouldn't. We could change the name of this podcast to Cumtown, and they wouldn't care.
Let's do it.
No,
Well, let's think about it.
because we're let's just be real. We're not as funny as they are.
They are pretty funny.
But
it's a good podcast. Anyway, all right. So
we get the
creature.
We get the reveal.
It does this.
We get the reveal that the little sister is. Again, quote unquote, the reveal that the little sister is a Jizzum Bird. Hey, you said that's what we were calling him now. You said that's what we're calling him now.
And I made a right call. It's funny.
We get the reveal the little sister is the Jizzum Bird, even though, again, pretty much called that from the very beginning of the movie. I do like that there's the scene earlier on where Gretchen is talking to Beatrix behind the desk, and she calls the sister, like, my dad's daughter. Is like, no, it's your sister. Is like... she's like
the same idea.
No, it's like if she wanted, she had her chance to have a real sister, but she absorbed her in the womb or whatever talking about how there were twins, but one of them disappeared. So I like that implication that the cuckoo, the Jizzum Bird, ate the human fetus in the womb and absorbed it and took its place. Because with like cuckoo birds, like sometimes the mother bird will like push one of the other birds, like one of her actual chicks, like out of the nest. When there is a cuckoo replacement because there's like too many birds or whatever. So I like that the Jizzum Bird fetus eats the human fetus.
Just to jump back quickly to that scene where, they're doing the stakeout and they try to
we
get
got
the jump on him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Him coming out with a gun.
Yeah, the detective puts like
it's so funny,
like
man.
a pillowcase on the gun.
Yeah, so that the other people in the resort don't hear him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he puts it like inside like a throw pillow. So when he shoots it, not only does it catch on fire, but there's also a big puff of feathers.
Yeah,
so
just
funny.
it takes like all of the tension out of the scene in just the best way, because it's the time for it. Like we just saw like this weird cum hand creature. Like it's time for some comedy. We need to lighten things up.
There's a great
wide
wide shot of him running around the side of the side of the bungalow with just like a trail of feathers behind him as he runs.
And the gun on fire.
And the pillowcase is on fire.
It's so good, because he runs in. She's like 10 feet away from him, and he misses, and he shoots the gun, and the whole pillowcase like catches on fire at the front.
I love that
and he doesn't bother to put it out. He's too determined. He just keeps running with the pillowcase on fire. Like, so good.
Yeah, when he's like recruiting Hunter Schafer early, he talks about, the woman's wanted for murder. There was a thing a year ago where a couple was staying at the lover's nest, and the husband was unconscious, and then when he woke up, the wife had drowned. She had choked on her own vomit, or whatever. Because we see that sort of like an after effect of being exposed to the Jizzum Bird's song or whatever is you puke a lot.
Can we name this episode the Jizzum Bird song?
I'll put it in the episode description.
Perfect. We've heard the Jizzum Bird song. Carry on.
But so that's another reveal we get a little bit later, is that the detective, like, that was him and his wife. So he was discharged from the police or whatever, and he's like he's gone vigilante, and he's here seeking revenge, which ultimately leads to the we're jumping over some stuff, but leads to the climax of the film in the hospital, where Hunter Schafer is trying to save her little sister, who she's decided like is her real little sister. It doesn't matter that she's literally not even human, but she's her sister nonetheless. And Dan Stevens is trying to get the sister back, and the detective is trying to kill the sister because he's trying to kill all of the Jizzum Birds. So they're just running around.
The motive is good.
Yeah.
I like all of the motive.
I like all of that stuff too. And they're just, but what I love is how fucking cartoonish this whole part is, because like Dan Stevens has like, it's not an AR-15, but it's like it's some kind of
like an FAL
semi-automatic rifle or whatever. And the detective has like his service weapon, and they're just running through this hospital shooting at each other, and they are such bad shots.
Both of them.
Typical Europeans.
Exactly. Typical Europeans. The both of them, such bad shots that not a single one hits the other throughout this entire exchange that goes on
You say
forever.
typical Europeans, but I don't see any Americans with gold medals right now in Olympic shooting, all right?
It's true.
Like, come on, if you're gonna call your shots, literally, like...
Yeah, but aren't all the shooting medals going to, like, Koreans and Turks and stuff like that?
That's true, yeah.
So Europeans still don't know how to shoot.
Hell yeah.
I don't even know what guns are.
Yeah.
Man, that's probably my new favorite Olympic sport, by the way. Just an aside.
Walk up, shoot, target, leave? Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
it fucking
so
rules.
many cool characters.
It's true.
Cool lore.
Yeah.
Though I will say, breakdancing just happened today.
I didn't
And
even know
there's,
that
like-
was an Olympic sport.
They just added it this year.
Yeah, there's been some weird
and
ones. I'm here for it.
the New Zealand entrant, women's entrant, was, imagine the female equivalent of Kenny Powers.
Dope.
Breakdancing terribly. It's
Awesome.
one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, I gotta see this.
It's just incredible.
Fantastic. Yeah, there's some fun ones,
Are we
but-
sure it's not just a new season of Eastbound?
Oh, I
Down.
wish. I wish. But I will say the climax is really well done, because like I almost feel like Hunter Schafer kind of makes the decision to save her sister in real time during that
Yeah,
scene.
totally.
And it's a great bit of character development in a pretty action-packed scene after that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love the scene before they do their final gambit, which is fucking hilarious. But like where she's like, we can hear Dan Stevens and the detective like shooting at each other in the background, and she's like trying to convince like the sister to like come with her, because like when the mother creature came in earlier, like Hunter Schafer was like holding a knife to her butterfly knife to the little sister, you know, to like ward off the creature or whatever. So that, of course, scared the little sister. So she's now like having to sort of like re-earn her trust. And that scene where she's like talking to her from across the room, like with sign language. And also the fact that like she didn't consider her a real sister, but she did take she obviously did take the time to learn sign language to be able to communicate with her, even though she's not deaf.
Well, it's like whenever she says like the sister stuff, it's like the begrudging teenager kind of thing. Like, so you still buy it, and there are those little moments where she does bond with her. I think there is enough. It's just barely enough.
But that I thought that scene was really sweet, and I thought another like really standout moment for Hunter Schafer in terms of performance, just like delivering, you know, mostly like silent dialogue, like she's mouthing the lines as she's doing the sign language, but like there's still so much emotion there.
Again, it plays up the strengths of physical performance in this film.
Yes.
Which I think is the highlight for Hunter Schafer's performance here. I will say I do have a minor gripe with the scene and the scene preceding it, in that like we have kind of a narrative motif of unkillable characters.
Yes.
Where characters get shot or stabbed and then they're immediately fine.
Yeah.
Dan Stevens is the worst, in my opinion. Dan Stevens has our backing up. You know, he gets our protagonist like in a situation where she can be impregnated by the creature, and it's one of the coolest sequences in the film, honestly.
Well,
like,
he's actually using her to train the adolescent creature, because
That's
it
right.
like starts the mating thing, like it gets its handful of cum, but he's like, He's like, nope, that's enough. And he stops it, and he starts like talking to it and training it, and then he tries to smother Hunter Schafer with the pillow. So he's not actually
you're just using
like,
her to train it a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
like, that's all cool. We really get, like, some of the best Dan Stevens stuff where he's got the headset on, and they're all, like, very clinically, and I'm doing a funny expression
He's
right
almost
now.
doing like the Chris Pratt Raptor thing.
Yeah. That's really good. No, it's
Like,
true.
throughout the
The
movie-
animal trainer, you know, kind of
Throughout
stuff.
the movie, he has this little wooden flute that he'll like pull out of
fuck, we
his
didn't even talk about the
pocket. And
flute.
he's like, to like to communicate with like the
it's
creature,
so-
like
yeah,
to
doing
train
bird
it.
calls.
Yeah, literally doing bird calls on his little flute.
Yeah, he's horny for bird calls. It's so funny, and I love all that stuff. But yeah, like the detective guy, because they've got him in custody. That's sort of one of the reveals there. We're not in custody. They've got him as a prisoner. He escapes. He enters the scene as sort of a Deus Ex Machina, and he shoots Dan Stevens and the young bird creature and
The Jizzum Bird.
The Jizzum Bird, thank you. And he takes Hunter Schafer away. The scene happens fast, and it's from a long shot, so it's a little hard to tell, or like a full body shot. Like it's hard to tell like where Dan Stevens even gets hit. I thought he got shot in the head. The scene is going so fast.
Later you can kind of see under his shirt he's got like a bandage on
Oh,
like
it's
his
the
upper
Stormtrooper
chest.
shoulder shot.
It's your typical like upper pectoral shoulder shot.
Yeah.
Like not it's like yes, you can see that there.
typical European name.
Yeah.
Right.
I will just stormtrooper shit for sure. And
Yeah. But even so, like
I
he
really
seems,
just thought he was dead
When
in
we
that
see
scene.
him again later, like he's entirely unfazed by it. And also, like Hunter Schafer does stab the detective at one point with
and
her
twist
switch
the knife even.
with her butterfly knife. Yeah, like twists it when he's trying to when he first tries to kill the little sister. And he comes back later, and he's like pretty much okay.
Yeah, but that's fine. Like, you can stab someone and twist the knife, and like it'll hurt really bad. But like, that doesn't necessarily kill them, depending on where you stab them. Like, that's
Sure,
fine.
but acting like nothing has happened.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Like that's all right. And again, like depending on where they get shot, I guess like with the Dan Stevens one, like is tropey as it is, like it would have been nice to just get like a finger twitch or something from him at the end of that scene. Just to kind of reinforce
we know he's
that.
not dead.
Yeah, because like him just re-entering the scene, I think it's a little too abrasive.
It's just like once again, he's just there all of a sudden.
Right, which is like, okay, you know what? That's pretty fair. That is sort of his whole deal, isn't it?
He always just appears.
Yeah, still in control.
Yeah.
Okay. I might rescind that complaint. Actually, that's a pretty funny point.
Strike it from the record.
Strike it from the record. That's good. You got me there. So now we have all the chaos. These characters are shooting at each other. This weird cuckoo creature is in the facility running around. Hunter Schafer has to deal with that and also try and get her sister while these two madmen are shooting at each other.
She stabbed the creature in the throat.
She does.
And then she realized
it's a pretty good long sequence.
Yeah. And she realized, man, it's basically just a person. And she has that moment where she pulls off.
They humanize it before she stabs it too, and it was a little. I was always kind of surprised that she does kill it.
Yeah,
like at that point, I thought like.
It is
directly characters, and then you actually kill.
And you kill the creature.
No. I mean, for like moral
like
reasons. Like I think that these creatures, it's pretty clear, are just part of their situation. Like it's been made clear that like really the villain is Dan Stevens and how he's manipulated the situation in like this weird inhuman way.
When she kills the mother creature though, it's 100% in self-defense. Like she's pinned under a bookshelf and it is like looming over her, like about to kill her.
You know what I kind of wanted to happen?
Stab it in the throat.
You guys will hate this. You guys will absolutely hate this. But I kind of wanted the mother creature to like
peer
over
kiss?
her. No, I wanted her to like and then like reach her hand out and help her up, and then they would fight.
Oh, whoa!
I didn't want that. But
what I wanted is
I don't know.
the creature to actually be more monstrous. There,
here's the problem.
It's like I feel like the creature in this movie does not feel like a predatory, monstrous threat quite enough.
Here's the trap.
I wanted it to pull off its wig and have like feathers or something underneath.
Yeah, I think that would have been enough because like
I wanted to see a cloaca.
The body horror fan in me, not even in me, just I'm a huge body horror fan. I love when things sprout extra limbs. And
we
have,
all
like, a mouth
are
in their stomach or
that
whatever.
goes without saying.
We're all body horror boys.
Yeah.
But I want her to like open her dress and again have like a big mouth on her stomach or something fucked up, right? Like we all want that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I want to
see
a monster cloaca.
Yeah, the issue there is that anything we graft onto that creature is also grafted onto the younger sister.
No, you're 100%
the
correct because the fact that the movie has to end with Hunter Schafer being like,
her
you're
sister
still
is a monster but still a person.
Yeah,
she's there for her.
But at the same time, I will say I think there's something powerful to Hunter Schafer accepting that and living with it despite whatever monstrous nature there is.
Yeah, but it has to be something that she can hide so that she can like live with her sister out in the world. Otherwise, it's like a Shaun of the Dead ass ending where it's like, oh, she's a zombie.
Well, the whole rest of the movie has set that up in like there's a veil.
Well,
of,
and
like humanity,
and I think
there's
room there too because they even specify that's like when the mother gets closer to the child, like it speeds up like a maturation, like a development process. Like I think it might be a little hacky, but you could say like, oh, since they killed the mother creature before the daughter was able to mature into an adult Jizzum Bird. She gets to stay quote unquote more human,
and she won't be like a,
and she won't turn into like a weird bird monster again. Like that might be a little bit, but I think
movie's already there though. Like I agree. I think
my desire for like a real monster at the end of this movie outweighs how I think that would be kind of cheating. So I think I would go.
Circling back, I think again that's kind of messy narratively in the movie.
A little bit.
I think ultimately it doesn't really matter all that much.
Well, because at the end of the day, the real monster is man. The real monster is Dan Stevens. When Dan like the most monstrous thing in this movie is when Dan Stevens starts talking about breeding factors. Like and he starts sounding like one of those like fucking freaky weird podcasts that like JD Vance has been on. That's why I made that joke at the beginning, right? Where it's all about like breeding metrics
shit,
and
you know, we're declaring war on childless adults.
Yeah, like all the weird all the weird breeder statistic, you know, dudes.
Starts sounding like she's
and like that's the monster, and that in real life earnestly skeezes me the fuck out. Where it's
the
like
real friends are the cums we came.
Yeah, it's like it's one thing to be a little sexist and be like, oh, women in the kitchen, but like to get like sciencey about it, about like that's we're getting it's like the chauvinistic version of phrenology. You know, it's like don't be nerdy about it too. That's even more fucked up and creepy. Like no, like Dan Stevens doing all this stuff. I thought was like very chilling and fun, and I buy it. And so like that's all what it is. But here's my complaint, and it's not really a complaint, but it's more my, I guess it's a revelation that I had. Oddity, reviewed Oddity a while back, right?
A couple weeks ago, yeah.
Oddity I felt was like a Tales from the Crypt episode given a modern A24 veneer, right? I feel like this is like a 2000s I Am Number 7, what is the name of that movie? One of those.
I'm Number 4.
Yeah, I like it's a teen with powers movie. Or, you know, like weird kind of I'm a mutant, you know, I'm on the run 2000s kind of film. Jumper, all of those. With the veneer of an A24.
Oof.
Right? Like it's very lore-y.
I think it's kind of doing this movie a
disservice.
Honestly.
It is a little bit, but like
it's a little unfair.
I don't know. I thought this was going to be more of like a cerebral psychological film, and more. It's really a creature movie. Yeah, maybe it is. It is a bit of a disservice. I mean, this film is far better than that, but I think that Oddity is better than like just like a, you know.
Yeah, I don't know
Crypt also.
I mean, I guess we have one moment at the very end of the little girl like using her shriek.
The power stuff is really what does it, right? Like, yeah. That's why I say that is like those movies are full of like the banshee character that does the wah scream thing, and everyone has to stop, and the camera does a shake, and like there is just a little bit of that at the end of it.
And I think you could avoid that by making the Jizzum Birds more monstrous.
I agree.
Less just like people. If you make them a little bit more other, then you avoid the kind of like kids with powers, X-Men kind of shit. Which I mean, you bring it up, and I think you see
where I'm coming from.
You're not wrong. I don't think it's like
it's more aesthetic than it is.
I don't think it's really that big of a thing. Like. No. Like, yeah, the little girl, like, does use her siren song to, like, save them at the end. And I do want to touch on that briefly because I thought this was an incredible gag where
this is where they stuck the landing.
Yes, where they get out of the situation by walking out into the room, holding each other, facing the direction of the people who do not want to kill them. So the little girl's back is facing Dan Stevens, so she's shielding Hunter Schafer, and Hunter Schafer her back is facing the detective on the other side of the room, shielding the little girl. So they're just sort of like crab walking, like they're like pushing a cart or something, like crab walking across the room. So neither Dan Stevens nor the detective can shoot them.
And they're both on either side, like CQC, like crouch walking, like with their guns out, and like they're all like badass or whatever, and she's just simply like wheeling out through the room. Yeah, I thought that was really cute.
And the little sister uses her shriek to like sort of hypnotize them and allow them to get out of the room. And then when they're left, it's just the two of them. They simultaneously shoot each other.
Great.
Which, awesome, great, love it. And so they get away, and Hunter Schafer is going to take care of her little sister, who, even though she's a monster, she is denying her monstrous nature in favor of the nurturing of humanity.
I really like that the parents are just taken out of the picture too.
Me too.
I thought
because
that was
the
great.
parents fucking suck.
Yeah.
Both the mom and the dad are kind of lame and
Trash.
Yeah,
I mean,
and she
honestly,
will be a better parent to her sister than her parents will
just
anyway.
like the detective, in my opinion, I think that parents are more narrative devices than characters.
Yeah.
Like, they are so one-dimensional in this movie.
I think it makes a little bit more sense for them than the detective. I wish there's a little bit more. I'm kind of with you on like wanting a little bit more from the detective.
Sure.
But the parents are supposed to be an other, like a hostile sort of like alien.
I think you can still have them as other and give them a little more texture. Because right now in the movie they just suck.
Yeah, maybe.
And, you don't care about them at all because...
Well, they
That's
don't
good.
really, but they...
And you shouldn't.
And you shouldn't, because they don't really care about Hunter Schafer either. Like, the whole thing is, like, the dad, like, blames Hunter Schafer for, like, the little girl's seizures, her epileptic fits.
That's
or
reason enough to
whatever.
not want to be around them.
And it's like, no, dude, like, your daughter is, like, coping with the death of her mother, and, like, you sold the mother's house that she thought she owned, and you're blaming her for, like, your younger daughter's
Also,
like,
he's a moron
epileptic
because he
fits.
set up this whole, like he got into bed with Dan Stevens' character and didn't see him for his true
Again,
self.
it's a very minor thing. I think a more
Bird thing.
experienced writer
bad
would
pun.
add a little more texture to these characters.
Yeah.
I think ultimately, in the scheme of things, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I don't know how much space there is for it.
Yeah,
in
me
this
too. Because like
movie.
there's
Like,
economy of time here, and it'd be difficult to add more of that without taking from what is necessary in the film. And I think there isn't much fat.
I don't know.
on
I think skilled directors and skilled writers in particular can add so much texture to characters with so little.
It's true.
How would
and
you
I
do
think
it?
That's just an example of an early writer.
So
you know,
how
this guy hasn't wrote a ton, and I think over time he'll develop that a little bit more.
what would be your solution be? Like, what would you remove?
I don't know. I'm not rating this movie, but I think adding, some sort of quirk or something unique or something strange, you could do a lot to kind of add a little bit zhuzh to the characters to make them
But what
a
would you
little
take?
more memorable. Cleve, I'm not writing this movie. I'm just saying that, like, a more apt, skilled writer could probably add a little bit more. I'm not trying to fantasy book this movie.
Okay. Just because I like the runtime personally. I think
I think the runtime's great too.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like it's too short or too long. I'm just saying like I think a more talented director would add a little more zhuzh to the minor characters.
I think it's one of those economy of storytelling kind of things where movies like Aliens, for example, where just in that one scene where like all of the Marines are waking up and like getting
You
out
get
of
so much
getting
Jim
out
is
of
the
hyper
best at
getting
that,
out of
yeah, absolutely.
hypersleep, like you get a sense for who all of these characters are within 2 minutes. And I think that that is something that a talented writer can do, and like when through that lens I agree with you. I think that it is sort of still important for the parents to be hostile, and
You could have that and still have them be a little bit more textured.
yeah, sure. No, there's something to that. I don't disagree. I do wish there was more of that with the detective, though. I think that would be more
Because he's a bigger character.
yeah, that would be my preferred over the parents. The parents don't bother me too much. But yeah, that's Cuckoo. Do you have anything else you want to touch on, or are we ready to rate?
Strong 4 out of 5.
Cool.
There we go.
how are you feeling about this one, Ben?
I'm gonna give it a strong 3.5 out of 5. I think it's really solid. Didn't blow me away, but I had a lot of fun during it.
Score was good.
Yeah, I'm so on the fence. I'm teetering between a 3.5 and a 4. I think I'm going to ignore some of my disappointment that it wasn't more of an instant body horror classic like the trailer advertised.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna
Trailers in general.
I'm gonna give it more credit for what the film actually is. I'm gonna give it that little extra, and I'm gonna give it the 4 as well. Especially because I think like on a rewatch, I'll probably appreciate a little bit more.
Yeah, I would enjoy rewatching
more
this film.
about this.
Yeah.
There's a lot to enjoy here. You know, like the trailer for this was really good, and frankly, I kind of went into this expecting it to be one of my favorites of the year, and it's not. So in that sense,
Man, it's been a good year.
a bit of a letdown, but also at the same time, it's like this has just been such a strong year.
Y'all are wild for rating this higher than Trap. I gotta
No, I stand by
say.
I feel even better about giving this a 4 now.
Yeah,
actually,
you reinforced that,
when you put it that way.
Yeah, it's fucking
So-
Trap. Like, Trap
so-
was good. Trap was great, but like,
So
I much more. I'd love to rewatch either one, but I think I gained more out of Cuckoo than Trap by a significant margin.
That'll give
At least
Cuckoo
0.5.
Cuckoo an average of 3.8 out of 5. And speaking of Trap, we have some prediction results.
Yes,
Yes.
we
for
do.
Trap.
So I'm gonna start with box office. I predicted 14 mil. Cleve, you predicted 40 mil. TC predicted 17 mil. It ended up doing 15.5 mil.
Oh, what did you predict?
14.
Oh shit!
I think that puts us right in the middle. I think
I
we
said
both get it.
17,
Yeah, and I
right?
said 14.
And it's 15 and a half. Oh, 15 and a
Yeah, I
half.
think we
oh
both
yeah,
get it,
nope.
yeah.
That is exactly in the middle.
A true tie.
Wow,
Um,
amazing.
In terms of Rotten Tomatoes, I said 74. Cleve, you said 20. TC said 61. It's currently sitting at a 55.
Deserved. I'm glad I'm wrong there. My hater was really
Honestly,
showing at 20.
I think it should be higher.
I think-
55 seems
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
low.
55 is low, but critics do not. We go off of critical rating, and critics do not love M. Night. He's audience beloved, but critics do not love him.
I think if I pulled up the Rotten Tomatoes score for Old, it would kill you instantly.
Is Old higher?
I think it is.
No, fuck.
I think
Fuck
it is.
off.
Let me double check. I was slightly mistaken. Old is at a 50.
Okay, so at least that's a closer margin than
That's
I would
fine.
appreciate, but at least Old is lower than Trap.
But The Visit is at 68.
I
and
haven't
this
seen
is
The
far
Visit.
better than The Visit. And Split is at 78. And this is comparable.
yeah, this is comparable to Split.
Okay, so
Anyway.
collective rating, I said 2.8. Cleve, you also said 2.8. TC said 2.
Ah,
We're sitting at 3.7. We were pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
We all undershot this one. In terms of who we thought would give it the best rating, we all said me.
yeah,
And that's all correct.
correct.
So, in terms of
Fucking
comments...
Shyamalan dick writer over here. Look out.
Man, well, I did like this movie, I will say.
Over here glazing Shyamalan.
There's gonna be the mother of all groan-worthy twists in here. Also, M. Night's pop star daughter is going to be mid.
Who said this?
I did.
That was you.
And you're wrong.
Honestly, wrong on both accounts.
Yeah.
And I'll take it.
Yeah.
Cleve, you said fuck you.
And I was wrong.
Yeah.
I was also wrong, and I'm happy to be. I do not say fuck you. I say thank you, even, to Trap. I liked it. It was a good movie.
Thank you, Mr. Knight.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. You actually did it. And he did it in spite of the haters, aka me, and I think that's pretty cool. I respect it. I respect it when people do that. Even if I'm the hater, I respect when people do stuff in spite of the haters.
You know, I've only grown more favorable towards the movie as time has gone on. I think it's my definitive favorite M. Night.
Wow.
I agree. I stand by my rating. I think 3.5 is pretty good, but like I do think it is the best Shyamalan film. I'm with you on that.
I can't
TC
put it
said,
over 6
in
cents.
terms of comments, he said, the twist is that there will be somehow another unrelated killer also at the show who gets caught rather than Josh Hartnett.
Wrong. I think it was a good guess, though. I think it was a good guess.
Yeah.
M. Night's other daughter is playing goth Taylor Swift, and her music will be a constant, annoying presence throughout the movie.
Thankfully wrong. It was pretty
wrong.
fun.
I was wrong on that.
Constant, but not annoying.
No, it was
Yeah,
good.
constant but not annoying,
I liked
and better than goth Taylor Swift, too,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Well, the conceit is, like a father takes his daughter to a Taylor Swift concert, and you can really get a sense that M. Night at some point did do that. Like you really buy
Probably,
the
yeah.
authenticity of and how genuine it feels, like that relationship with him and his daughter, and like them at that concert. It feels like they're going to a big Taylor Swift concert, but the music is way fucking better. I respect it. I really do.
Anywho, next week we'll have prediction results for Cuckoo, so stay tuned for that. And also next week, another new movie that I'm very excited for. It's finally time for Alien Romulus.
Let's fucking go.
I remain neutral.
Let's fucking go.
Let's fucking go.
Cleve remains
I'm not on the hype train yet. I'm going to see it.
strangely skeptical for somebody who is just as big of a defender of Prometheus and Alien Covenant as I am. For some reason, Cleveland is trepidatious about a Fede Alvarez all practical.
I wouldn't say trepid, just neutral. I'm flat. I'm flat on it.
Well, we'll see. I'm fucking hyped.
I'm fucking hyped.
I can see it. You guys
I'm
are both torqued up. Yeah,
I'm fucking torqued.
yeah.
My shit
I'm
is
white.
on. My shit is on hard. I'm ready. So be sure not to miss next week our review of Alien Romulus, and go see the movie too, because we're going to be getting into spoilers. All right. Well, let's do sponsor.
Oh fuck! Yeah, we haven't done that in a minute. All right.
Yeah, we haven't done sponsor in a couple weeks.
Well, I have news. Sorry, I opened the sponsor
Just
book.
loudly
and
belch.
It burnt. That was the book. The book did that. I don't know why, but I opened the sponsor tome off of the sponsor shelf, and it burped the final sponsor in this tome.
Oh my god.
We're gonna have to fucking give our blood and renew it again. Can you fucking believe it? But yeah,
give it a handful of cum this time.
That's right. This episode was brought to you by Jump Scare.
Don't do that.
I had to. It's a sponsor, tease. I don't have a choice. Okay, it's brought to you by Jump Scare. Sorry, I had to do it. That's what it is.
You're shaving years off my life here, Clay.
I feel you. You know I notoriously don't like them, but we got to get paid. We got to eat. So
at least we're getting some money.
At least we're getting paid. So once again, thank you to. Jump Scare.
Oh fuck. Whew. All right, that'll do it for us this week. If you like the show, don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating and a review. Subscribe, share an episode with a friend. Maybe this episode, maybe a different one. We've got plenty to choose from. And if you really want to go the extra mile, why don't you head on over to patreon.com/podpeoplepod and support us there. You can get early episodes, you can get Discord access, and if you subscribe to our highest tier, you can recommend movies for us to talk about on the show. Speaking of, shout out to our lovely honorary pod boys, Sam, Zach, Micah, and Mitchell.
All the kissies.
All the kissies and the love. Thank you. And you can also follow us at letterboxd.com/podpeoplepod, where you'll find a list of all the films we've talked about on the show with our average ratings and links to those reviews. You know, after we watched Trap last week, it really got me into the Hitman mindset. So I reinstalled.
I did see you were playing Hitman.
I reinstalled Hitman
yeah.
because it was in Ben's Steam library, and I installed that shit, and I've been playing a lot of Hitman: World of Assassination. And you know what? That game is fun, and I can recommend it. So that's my recommendation for this week.
I'm going to recommend, last week I was out on assignment in San Diego, and my book for the flights was a little book called Childhood's End by Arthur C. Clarke. And it's one of the greatest sci-fi novels I've ever read.
I bounced off Clark a few times.
Well, it's the same guy who wrote 2001: A Space Odyssey, famously, as well as Rendezvous with Rama.
That I've read. Banger. Rendezvous with Rama is great.
Yeah.
I don't think I've
End
ever read any Clark, actually.
Fucking phenomenal. It's a breezy read. It's only like 200-some pages.
Love that.
It's a very interesting take on aliens and kind of utopian sci-fi. Very interesting read.
Love that. Cleve, you got anything this week?
Every week. This week is brought to you by that pleasant feeling you get when you finally do the dishes and sweep your floor. And you realize that you could have done that days ago, and it would have been fine. It didn't really take that long. But you did it, and that's what matters.
Cleveland recommending the sense of accomplishment from doing simple household chores.
Yep.
Wow, yes. Titillating as always. Thank you for listening.
It's a little thing.
And remember that a cum in the hand is worth two in the bush.
2 jizzums in the bush.
Ray.